Today I'm here to talk mostly about tripods, but specifically about a tripod, the K&F Concept BA225 carbon fibre tripod. Full disclosure, they sent this to me to review, didn't pay for it, but as per usual, that doesn't mean I'm just going to give it a good review. I'm going to be completely objective about it. Before we talk about this though, I think it's important to talk about tripods just in general. Tripods are the first piece of equipment I recommend beginners buy, just because it opens up a whole new world of photography. Tripods can be a bit of a minefield, because better is a relative term when it comes to tripods. Better for one particular thing does not necessarily mean that it's going to be good for another. There typically tends to be 3 categories to select from, and really you can only ever choose 2. The first is build quality, the second is cost, and the third is its weight. You may be able to choose a tripod that is built well and is lightweight, but that doesn't mean that it's going to be cheap. Similarly, you can buy a tripod that has great build quality and is cheap, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be lightweight. So what I'm looking to see today is if this BA225 carbon fibre tripod can actually cover all 3 bases. Let's dig into it. My first impressions of this tripod when I opened it up were that it feels a bit like a toy. The only tripods I've had to compare it to were the Manfrottob 190XB, which is literally a tank. I've had it for 15 years and it is still going strong, filming the video today. And I've also got the Travis Punk 3-legged things tripod. I wasn't actually too impressed with this tripod, but that's in another video which I'll link in the description. To compare, this Travis Punk's tripod, which is already a compact tripod, is significantly bigger and much heavier than the K&F Concept BA225. So first of all, let's take a look at the specifications. Apparently this tripod can hold up to 8 kilograms, and what I think that means is less that it can manage 8 kilograms of camera equipment at any angle, in any area, in any situation, and more that it means that if I were to put down 8 kilograms of force right on the top here, it would take 8 kilograms for the tripod to buckle. I don't necessarily think that you're going to get away with using this with sort of a larger video camera, but I don't think it's going to be used for that anyway. As you can see, if I've got the tripod completely extended, a little bit of wiggling occurs just because of the flex of the legs. At its smallest, when it's completely folded down, it folds down to a tiny 35 centimeters, and when you've got it fully extended, and that means with the legs open and the center column extended, it comes up to 1.5 meters. In a studio setting, you could use this tripod at 1.5 meters. However, when I'm out in the field, having this center column right up here and the center of gravity of the whole set of equipment being so high, it's basically something I would never do. I would always have the tripod right down to this height here, which I believe is 1.2 meters. That's pretty much the most important parts of the tripod, in my opinion. There are various other things. So for example, you can unscrew one of these legs and you can use it as a monopod. Fine, if that's what you're into, you can totally do that. It's got some various other features. It's got a little hook on the bottom, which I assume means you can hang a weight on it, which will make the tripod a bit more sturdy. The tripod plate is an Arca Swiss type. It's a universal standard where you slide the tripod plate into the head and then simply tighten it up. This tripod plate does actually have some safety features so that if you haven't tightened it up completely, it will stop it from sliding out. And that I think is pretty standard across Arca Swiss plates. That's all of the bits, that's all of the stuff. There's various other things. You go on their website and they're going to say, oh, it does this and it does that and da 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 da, but really I care about how well does it function, bare bones, as a tripod. Recently in the United Kingdom we had a storm called Storm Arwen, which sort of came through the country, gusts of about 100-mile-an-hour winds, and so I thought, what better place to really see the limits of this tripod than to go to the top of a gorge during a storm. And I have to say, all things considered, the tripod fared admirably, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's up to the task that I want it to be up for. So I've used the tripod for a bit and I've had a little bit of time to reflect. In short, this tripod, the K&F Concept BA225, is a great travel tripod. That said, it's not without its cons. So first of all, it's too small to be properly stable. With the tripod fully extended, all the legs extended and stood completely up, the tripod isn't big enough or wide enough to be stable in all circumstances. I mean, it's fine if it's not windy, if the ground is level, but if you want to say, I don't know, have one leg in a river and the other leg on a slippery rock, or if you're on a precarious cliffside or it's even a little bit windy, I just don't have the confidence that this is actually big enough to be stable. Let's talk about the feet. The feet are beyond useless. I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but they're basically just little plastic nipples. I honestly think they're worse than having no feet at all. I think if it was just the end of the metal tube or the carbon fibre tube, I honestly think it would be better. As it stands, these feet are just crap. They're so slippery, they don't have any grip. If you put this on something slippery, all it's going to do is splay out the leg, and because it's sort of a carbon fibre, the leg just bends, you see, like that. So you put this down on something slippery, it's going to push out and bend the leg, just further adding to the instability. So yeah, the feet are absolutely awful, easily the worst tripod feet I've ever seen, which sounds horrendous, but it's not the end of the world. So when the tripod's fully extended, the width or the area that the legs cover, it's just not wide enough for the tripod to be really stable. It sits quite narrow, and to make it stable, you have to make the legs a bit wider to cover a bigger area. So by making them wider, what you're actually ending up doing, you're reducing the tripod to a really awkward height to work with. I mean, it's around about 50 centimeters off the ground when it's fully extended like this. I mean, and then because of the weight of the camera that you're going to be using, and because of the material that the tripod's built from, what you're going to end up doing is having legs that will flex, you know, like this. So what I really would have preferred is if you could have made these sort of knuckles, what are these called? These levers? These adjusters? Essentially, these adjusters, they only have a couple of angles. So you can either have it at this angle here, or you can raise it and then it finishes at that angle here. There's nothing in between, you know? Ideally, I'd have been able to give it an in-between angle like this and lock it in place, but I just can't do that. So that's a real shame. I just feel like it's too prohibitive, too restrictive to be able to give the tripod the stability that I want it to have, for it to be effective in all of these different circumstances. As it stands, you know, either it's upright and it has a really, really wobbly centre of gravity, or it's really low down, makes it difficult to work with, and it makes the legs bend. Now, on to the positives. This tripod is ridiculously compact and lightweight. It folds down to about 35 centimeters and it weighs about 1 kilogram. That's pretty damn good. As a travel tripod, that's exactly what you want. Really light, really small. I mean, I've got jackets whose pocket this would fit into if I really, really needed to. I mean, this is going to fit in a hiking backpack, it's going to fit in a suitcase, no worries. That's really valuable in a travel tripod. In a regular tripod, if you're just using it in like a studio setting, or if you don't mind carrying a big tripod for a landscape photography shoot, the size and the weight and the portability of a tripod is less important in those scenarios. But if you're purely looking for a travel tripod, you can't really do much better than this. The build quality, it's a really, really nicely built tripod. Every single part of it, every single element, each joint, each knob, it feels really, really well made. I can't fault that. The only possible thing that I would have an issue with are these knuckles here, which allow you to change the angle of the leg. But other than that, I've had cheap tripods in the past, you know, like 17 quid Amazon Basics and Jessops and all that sort of stuff. The build quality of those, it just feels like plastic, whereas this feels like a very high quality piece of kit. The price that you're paying for this, I think that it's pretty good build quality. And finally, this ball head is way better than it has any right to be. This is the smallest ball head I've ever used, and yet it's one of the sturdiest, it's one of the strongest. I'm currently filming using the three-legged things Airhead Neo, I think the old version, and that thing barely holds the ball in place. You know, you tighten the knob up as hard as you can and that ball is still going to move if there's any bit of pressure on it. Whereas this thing, you really crank it tight using this lever and this isn't moving without considerable force. Considering this is smaller and cheaper than the three-legged things one, I was really surprised to find that this is actually better. Now, I wouldn't say that it's going to be good for really heavy cameras, or if you do want to use it at an angle, I'd probably put it onto an L bracket rather than portrait mode. But nonetheless, it's a very, very sturdy, stable tripod head. I think I'm probably going to swap out the three-legged things for this one because it is better. Yeah, very impressed with the ball head here. So let's summarise, and to summarise I'd like to go back to what I originally said about there not being a tripod that's better for all things. It's all subjective. I kind of think it's like playing trump cards, right? Say for example you've got a Velociraptor and your opponent has a Brachiosaurus. If your opponent says weight, the Velociraptor's going to lose. But if the opponent says speed, the Velociraptor's going to win. And I kind of think the same thing about tripods here. If I were to say, is this tripod better for being really, really sturdy than, say, the Manfrottob 190XB? No, it's not. If you want to shoot in slippery ground and high winds and precarious positions, is this tripod better than the three-legged things Travis Punks? No, it's not. But is this tripod going to be better for travel photography, where you need something that's lightweight, portable and small? Yeah, absolutely. It completely decimates both of those other tripods for that purpose. When I've gone abroad for periods of time, squeezing my tripod into my suitcase has always been an absolute pain. I would have loved to have a tripod this size for some of my longer trips where weight really was an issue. You know, just being able to put this into your hand luggage or even putting it into your suitcase and knowing that it takes up less than a pair of shoes and weighs a kilogram is absolutely invaluable. Similarly, there have been times when I've done longer hikes. Recently I did the 3 Peaks and I didn't take a tripod for any of the days because I just knew that the last thing I'd want at the end of the day was 2 kilograms of weight hanging off my back. You know, that's 2 litres of water. But this thing, considering it's only a kilogram, you really would be surprised at the difference that makes. And I would 100% have taken this tripod on the 3 Peaks walks because it barely weighs anything. And you know, yeah, after a whole day of hiking, you're gonna wish you didn't have that extra kilogram. But there were some shots that I had to just miss where I could have done with a tripod, you know. There were shots where I wanted to take a photograph of us as an entire group and I had to balance my camera precariously on a bag or on a rock or something like that, where a tripod would have come in super handy. And as I said, for just a kilogram and folding up to 35 centimeters, that really isn't much, and I absolutely would have loved to have this tripod. I spent some time looking on K&F Concept's website and noticed that they had some of the bigger and sturdier carbon fibre tripods. And honestly, if I'd have been sent one of them to review, I expect that I would have replaced my Manfrottob and my three-legged things with that tripod. Because if it's anything like the build quality of this, then it would have been absolutely outstanding. But as it stands, this tripod really only fits into those niche categories of sort of hiking and travel. If you want an all-purpose tripod, one that doesn't particularly excel in any area, but it's stable, it doesn't cost that much, doesn't weigh too much, honestly I'd avoid this. It's just too small and lightweight to be sturdy in those conditions where you need it to be. If you want something that's lightweight and portable and built well, then this is an absolute steal if you're looking for a lightweight travel tripod. In that scenario, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Thanks for watching this video. If you've enjoyed it, I hope you'll give it a like, and if you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching, have a nice day.